So starting with number 1, this one's not new. You've been doing excluded values for a few lessons now. I'm noticing that they don't have proper grammar right there. It should be the excluded value, not the exclude value. So remember, an excluded value is just the denominator in the fraction set to 0. So in this case, I would set my equation equal to 0, or I'm making an equation and setting it equal to 0. And the number that would make this equal to 0 would be positive 4. Because remember, the denominator cannot be 0 in a fraction. So for number 1, you would just type in 4 and be done. Numbers 2 and 3 are exactly the same thing, so I'm just going to do one example from them. I'm going to do number 2. They're both asking you for a vertical asymptote and a horizontal asymptote. We have done asymptotes or talked about asymptotes a few times before this year. They're basically the dashed lines that you draw in your graph to show that your graph is approaching a certain value, but will never equal that certain value. So in order to know how to find out the vertical and horizontal asymptotes, there's an equation that you use. So you either need to copy this down as you watch this example or use your book. It's right in the middle of page 707. And here is the equation that you need. Y equals A divided by X minus B plus C. So it tells you to the side that a vertical asymptote is the B value. Notice there's a negative there. So if there's a negative in your problem, all you do is type in the number that you see. But if there's a positive there, you need to put the opposite of what you see. And the horizontal asymptote is the C value. So horizontal is whatever you're adding to your fraction. Vertical is whatever is in the denominator of your fraction. So let's go back to that problem. So if I look, my denominator is X minus 2. The 2 is the value that is there. Remember, the negative is already there, so I don't have to worry about that. So 2 is my vertical asymptote. Oh, and what is this? For the first time ever, Digits actually wants you to put X equals in front of your answer. So in order for you to get this right, you can't just put the number. You have to put X equals your value. So there's my vertical asymptote. My horizontal asymptote, remember, is whatever I'm adding to my fraction. Well, there's nothing there that I'm adding to my fraction. So the number that means I'm not adding anything is 0. And again, I forgot to put, I believe it should be Y equals 0 this time. There we go. And then it's going to ask me to graph the function. Well, we're at a point where we haven't really learned to do this. You could make a table and check your table, but I think it's just easier to put this into Desmos. So I already have Desmos open. I'm going to need to do 4 divided by X minus 2. So here's Desmos.com. Click on Start Graphing. And I'm going to type in Y equals 4 divided by X minus 2. And I'm just going to take a look at my graphs. All right, so I've got a graph approaching 0 in quadrant 1. I'm going to look at my intercept. So that's at 0, -2 to help me out here. Okay, so A does not have an intercept of -2, B does not have an intercept of -2, C does not have an intercept of -2. So that's probably the easiest way to look for your graph if your eyeballs don't feel like looking. I mean, this obviously is the only one that looks like my other graph, but I didn't feel like looking for it.